We'll be looking at that. We'll have some conversations around that as well. We'll also look at the Ghana Premier League, some boxing and some tennis news. Let's start off with that unfortunate incident that happened 21 years ago. And today marks 21 years since the May 9th stadium disaster claimed the lives of 126 sports fans at the Accra Sports Stadium. Then chairman of Kotoko, Herbert Mensah, and current Asante Kotoko Chief Executive Officer Nana Yao Amponta have led thousands of people in a walk over the weekend to commemorate the day. And the disaster occurred during a league match between Asante Kotoko and their main rivals Hearts of Oak in 2001, claiming 126 lives, making it one of the worst stadium disasters in African history. Now, Mr. Herbert Mensah was the chairman of Asante Kotoko at the time, and he joins us on the phone lines to have an extensive conversation about this. With the recent spike in hooliganism in football, this conversation is very, very relevant. Hello, good morning, Mr. Mensah.
Good morning.
Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Yes, now we understand that you marked the day by having a walk in Kumasi yesterday. Can you tell us the successes that you had during this exercise?
Well, that's not actually the case. We do May 9th activities throughout the year, and we started this year about a week, 2 weeks ago, walking through Nima, going to visit the families who have benefited from the May 9th exercise, the disabled, the physically impaired, the flood victims, the atomic victims, and some of the May 9 families. We go into their homes, we spend time, we move with sponsors to be sure that they also benefit from whatever we are given. Before we then went to Kumasi and then attended the mosque on Friday, the first mosque after the end of Ramadan. It happens for the last 21 years that we've been doing it. So a very significant moment for us, for all the families, for the disabled, for all the different people who are involved, and with prayers. After which we went to their homes, we met with media. It's a media event, so those big media houses who have followed us 21 years, we spent time with them. Then the following day, we then went through with thousands of people through the streets of Kumasi. This year, we're joined by Nana Yao, the CEO of Kumasi Asante Kotoko, Fireman Zongo, and a lot of other dignitaries also joined us on the march. Hundreds of people came from Accra, and we went through. It is not only about football anymore. May 9th, as we know, last year, His Excellency the President welcomed us to Jubilee House, and the families were touched. We were honored. He's the first president ever to do so in the last 21 years. And he was able to interact with the flood victims, with the atomic blast victims, with the May 9th victims, and there was a child that we were trying to support with a hole in the heart. So the concept of May 9th has moved on from violence and hooliganism at stadiums into other areas. Okay. And then we then go to Otumfo. But Otumfo is not present. He's only arriving today. And we will go up to see him probably at the weekend or next weekend when he's in.
Speaking about government support and you being welcomed to the Jubilee House, what's the motivating factor that pushes you to keep doing this? Because some people argue that successive governments and political parties have not really paid attention to victims of the May 9th disaster. So what is motivating you to keep doing this?
Well, we don't do it for public aggrandizement. We've done it since I was chairman of Kotoko. That first year, I gave my word, and we are members of the global world. What is done at Heysel, what is done at Hillsborough, what is done at Ellis Park. We are in touch with those those organizations. And the same way as respect and honor is given to the families of the deceased and remembrance of those who passed, we have done it. And if you get involved, maybe next year you get involved with us going to the homes and you see the children who are now maybe 21, 22, who were not even born at the time. They were in their mother's stomachs when it happened. When you visit some of the families that we've dealt with, who have become family, and we speak to them every month, every week, every few months. And then if you take pride as a Ghanaian in being a globalist, then you know there's a way forward, and you do it. It's such a camaraderie between everybody, and you feel good when you are trying to do good for others, and the response that they have to that. And it's just interesting that so many other groups, children dying from caustic soda intake, we were involved with that. Hole in the Heart, we're involved with that. May 9 families, the flood victims, the atomic blast victims. So we're involved in a lot of different things, and we continue throughout the year. And I think this is one of the motivations. And as I say, thanks to His Excellency the President. We take our hat off and will forever have respect and love for what he did and has done, and for Otumfuo, who has always made his doors open to us.
Great. I believe if a lot of people are as patriotic as you, Ghana would be in a better place. But also let's look at the victims of this disaster. Are there some stories that have touched you from some of these victims after the incident 21 years ago? And how about compensation matters?
Touching, absolutely. You go into households with people where there are victims who are from Heart and from Kotoko. You go into households of people who they just could not believe it from that night where it happened to during the following week, where we visited as many of the families as we could. Obviously, you cannot visit all. I brought in families from South Africa, Ellis Park disaster, to meet with the Ghanaians and breaking bread with them in Nima and in Abuabo and in parts of Kumasi, and seeing the different families coming together, sharing their experiences. These are very rare moments where you are humbled by people's experiences, their pain, and how they are getting through it. And then you're always humbled when people call you and they ask you for advice. I mean, the lady one of the ladies in Accra, Rani, her son is now being accepted into university. He's a brilliant young boy, and any help that we can give in terms of advice or somebody to push. So you have those kind of stories. We have other children who graduated last year and so forth, and the team. I say there's a team of people who have been involved. So King Edward and Prince and Sakut and the rest of them up country, helping them to take their things from school back to home. And it's therefore part of a family and part of life. With respect to funding, that is not so much of our business. I mean, a May 9th Foundation Fund was set up after we left, and nothing to do with us. That is a government organization. That is a government setup. It was set up many decades ago, many years ago. We were not invited to be a part. Our opinion was never sought. So it's not our business. We find it often better to do things voluntarily as individuals, various ministers, and we have outlasted most ministers. Which minister has not been there since we started May 9th? So many FA presidents have come and gone. But May 9th continues. And as I said, I take my hat off to His Excellency the President, even if his ministers have a different agenda. Certainly the President has been his agenda for care. And Otumfuo again, who are far greater than any of the others, have opened their homes and their palaces and Jubilee House to the victims. So the financial aspect, the foundation, we keep well away from that.
Right. Before I let you take leave of us, however, at the end of the day, do you think that we have learned lessons from this 21 years after and over 100 people dying and the hooliganism we see in current times? Have we learned anything from that disaster?
Tragedies are something horrible. I mean, tragedies are not necessarily the things that we always want to be remembered for. And football is such a passionate sport that we look at things and we really wonder every time there's this weekend there was a problem with Tamale City and another team and their bus being attacked.
Right.
People have to put systems in place. That is something which I'm sure the FA is trying to do or is doing. But you can never do enough. You have to until such a time that the culture of misbehavior changes. And how you deal with the culture of misbehavior, everybody will have their ideas. But it is important that we look at a different scenario where we can enter into football matches, understand their football matches. People will get annoyed, people will misbehave, but not to the extent of wreaking violence or revenge on other people.
Right. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. Mr. Herbert Mensah has been insightful speaking with you, and you just heard